whether we like it or not, taking a trial and error approach to this. Now, when you're talking about the complexity, it can have many different ramifications. If we're looking at accessibility of products and we start to strip away certain areas of the user interface, does that work with screen readers? Is that still accessible? If the text isn't there, if it's just spoken, how does that affect people with other disabilities? So there's a whole area, and I don't think this is really defined at all yet. The whole industry of UX is relatively young, going back about 20 years. And I think this is like the dawning of a new chapter in UX, which is if we start thinking about removing screens from experiences and we start to look broader afield to virtual reality and mixed reality, how do we design those? What kind of like ethics and norms do we build around those? At the moment, we're just trying to take the sensibilities that we have from our experience and apply them. And we're seeing what sticks and what doesn't. But if I'm to be honest, a lot of this is really we're taking spaghetti and we're throwing it at the wall. It's always good if we can test it because then we'll get very valuable feedback. But really, we're just taking the approach of let's try and maybe we'll fail, but hopefully we'll learn something. A lot of it comes down to advocacy in the beginning, in the framing and scoping of projects, and that's working with our partners and clients to, for one, articulate the value of doing so. That often you'll see, especially with clients, they have their fingers on the purse and they're worried about the bottom line, and it's hard for them to open up to things that they don't see as priority or 100% necessary for their products. One part of it is education in terms of showing them some examples from the past, giving them examples and using the magic letters that they will respond to well, which is ROI in many cases, and showing that by doing this, you will have better products. And ultimately, that will put you ahead of the competition, and that will lead to great benefits for your company. And I think the other like side of this puzzle is doing it in a way that's lean and cost effective. I think doing user testing and then implementing the feedback and the findings and conclusions from that, it's been it's been blown out of proportion and lots of clients they'll see that as okay, that's going to add an extra couple of months onto my timeline, it's going to add a lot of extra cost into my budget. So I think a way of doing that, and even at Door 3, we've started to coin the term of rapid user testing, which is being able to use third-party software tools. And everybody's, well, not everybody, but many people are working from home remotely at the moment, and that's been a huge boon for user testing. And the software that's evolved around that has really helped a lot. So there's certain tools that we use. They integrate extremely well with our UX design tool, Figma, and that enables us to prototype our designs, upload our designs into third-party software, actually write the different tasks and challenges for the users there, and send that out to them along with video introductions where we can help to onboard them to the tool, explain the main kind of goals that we want from the testing, follow up with survey questions. So we can do that, and we can also send it out to many different users, and it doesn't cost us a penny more because of the wonders of the internet and the connected world. And also recently harnessing some AI features as well. If we're sending out these user tests to many different people, and it's recording their screen, it's recording them via the webcam, it's taking many different data points and giving that out to you. We can actually use some tools to streamline the review and the synthesis process of that afterwards. So that's the way that I've tried to approach this with partners and clients, which is really trying to show them the value of it and also telling them we can do this very quickly and efficiently, and it will generate good insights. It doesn't matter as UX designers or as marketing experts in our client side how well we think we know the product. We have blinders on because we've been designing it, they've been living it. We need to get this fresh perspective of a user who will come in and in 2 seconds they will say, yeah, you missed putting a back button here, or something really obvious that everybody else has missed. And that's great insight. So it's worth doing it, but it just needs to be done effectively, I think, at the moment. The search bar is a very good example, but I think also what we're seeing is just We used to have the principles of not overwhelming the user necessarily in terms of like how we would think about the composition of the elements on the page, how we would stagger them, and the spacing that we would afford them in between. I think that's really started to be turned on its head. This has been something that's been gradually happening over years. We look especially in mobile device usage at the moment and even wearable device usage. The screen sizes are much smaller, but users are so much more accustomed to gestures of swiping through multiple screens, of force pushing, even having feedback from haptics, which lets them cycle through different layers. So I think this idea of sparsing everything out doesn't exist anymore, and it's really about how much information can we pack into an area, still not being overwhelming, but all the information is there. It just has to reveal itself at the right time. And that just takes one kind of gesture from the user, or can even happen automatically through like timed experience, etc. So I think that's one. And I'll think for another couple of seconds, and if I don't get it, let's see. Automation that I think traditionally in terms of UX design and when users run websites, we always had to reassure them that everything was safe and really walk them in baby steps through processes. And people are just so used to experiences now, they just don't want to spend the time. If they're buying something or if they're reserving something, they just want it to be done. And they're expecting these applications and these platforms to be integrated with their other applications and programs and just everything to just work. Why should I put in my personal details and my address? The system should just know that from my other accounts that I use and just do it, and it should be instantaneous and all friction should be removed. I think that's interesting that there used to be a lot more explanation of steps, like what was the expected input from the user and what the expected outcome would be from that. And I think now we've just foregone that in service of just being fast and efficient.